Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. It's Hail Varsity Radio presented by the Nebraska Lottery. As Chris Schmidt currently at home doing this show today from home ahead of high school basketball. I am watching him walk across the room. His watch was set wrong apparently. Schmitty, what's up with you? We're into the show.
I was feeding the pups, man. That?
What was that?
Said I was feeding the pups. So that's where we were at, but welcome to it, Friday edition, Hail Varsity Radio.
I'm like, where is Schmitty at?
No, I'm here. You see me. We have not fired up the old StreamYard yet, but we're going to for the Pride of Fairbury, Bill Doleman. Busy show to get to, absolutely. Yeah, I said, okay, we're I've got to go feed the dogs, man. They were going nuts outside. The German Shepherd wanted to play ball. I was like, can't do it. Got to go to work. And I was feeding them. And Roz is the 80-pounder. Gertie's the 65-pounder. And it's the same food, man, but they both want each other's food. So I was refereeing. So big-time apologies for being late. Good on you, Elijah, for picking this fumble up. But
I feel like a deer in the headlights.
It is Super Bowl Friday, getting ready for Cincinnati, and of course the Rams will have plenty to get to on that. We'll talk to a longtime Bengal and Nebraska and college football Hall of Famer Dave Rimington with us for an extended sit-down in hour two. We'll spend time with, of course, Bill Doleman to get things going in hour two. And pretty excited, Russ Hochstein going to be back with us. He'll detail as we conclude Huskers in the Super Bowl week with Russ, back-to-back Super Bowl championships in 03 and 04 with the Patriots, with Tom Brady. So Russ will chime in with us on that. Jacob Padilla, Husker basketball tomorrow, Sunday against Iowa, but plenty of basketball prep hoops at 4:40. So excited for all these guys that are going to pop in. Adrian Martinez, come on down. He has a chance to kind of share his thoughts as he is now a Wildcat, which is good for him. And also with our parent company, Hurrdat, from Hail Varsity, Adrian's getting into a year two with his podcast. So some thoughts there from Adrian in a moment. But the good news is this, although it does not affect Memorial Stadium, Elijah, you have alcohol that has been approved by the Board of Regents for the folks, the presidents, the chancellors, those who run their own show, i.e. UNO, or in this instance, Trev Alberts in Nebraska, those at UNK. Hey, you'll be able to figure out if you want to sell alcohol at sporting events or not. You have the go-ahead to pursue that, should you choose to, as an athletic director, as a university setup. So that's pretty good news for Nebraska moving forward. Ted Carter coming out. Of course, no booze at Memorial Stadium in 2022. Wasn't expecting it. Haven't had it legally for a long time. So you just kind of move forward that way. And you know what? It's a discussion point, though, beyond Big Ten wrestling that is, about 3 weeks away here at Memorial Stadium.
Yeah, and I think a bigger question is, as you said, wasn't really expecting it to be Memorial Stadium this fall, but what is going to be that first Husker sporting event that is going to get booze in the stadium? We've been saying so much about baseball. I think baseball makes a lot of sense, and we actually had Kyle Perry expected to be either a Friday or Saturday starter for the Huskers this season. He tweeted out just a picture of a beer emoji with a question mark. and his location was at Hawks Field at Haymarket Park. So he clearly wants booze in the stadium at Haymarket Park. And I think it makes a lot of sense to do baseball first. Personally, they already have the infrastructure there from the Salt Dogs in the summertime playing their games there, selling booze, making a lot of money doing it. And beers is a part of baseball as the gloves and the bat and the ball are. Like, beer has been in baseball for as long as I've been alive. I mean, for pretty much the history of the game, beer has been a huge part of, you go to a baseball game, you get the hot dog and you get the beer. So why don't we have beer at Haymarket Park? I think that would be the logical first step. You also have the infrastructure at PBA. So those are the first two locations I think of, just because the added infrastructure that it's going to take to get it into Memorial Stadium is obviously going to be a big ask. But maybe with expanded seating and whatnot, maybe that's one of the things they think about adding, along with whatever other additions they're going to be making to Memorial Stadium in the near future.
Amenities are key. You've got a whole kind of reboot to do at Memorial Stadium when it comes to, well, winning, first and foremost. Secondly, it's fan comfort. Thirdly, it's different amenities. East Stadium, way different than West Stadium, way different than North Stadium, way different than South Stadium. So that's all one big part of tackling concourses and availability. But you do have regents saying, yep, go for it if you're a chancellor, prospective chancellors, to authorize the sale and consumption of alcohol at athletic events on campus. If the University of Nebraska decides to proceed, the sale of alcohol would be permitted at athletic events. That includes Memorial Stadium, Pinnacle Bank, Haymarket. Does that mean Ted Carter's very clear on this? Will this mean alcohol at Memorial Stadium? We don't have an answer, but I can tell you it won't be this fall. We will never bring alcohol to an event without bringing it back to the Board of Regents. So there's a lot of hurdles here, and I don't even know that there's hurdles per se. It's just a timing situation, and you know, the guy's voice in this state that is still uber loud, and it deserves to be, is Coach Osborne. He's not an alcohol fan. I don't know that he'd ever go along with alcohol. Memorial Stadium, right, wrong, indifferent. That's his take. People in power respect his take. They will listen to him on that take and then proceed with what they think is best. But he'll have his say about it, and has had his say about it, where he's not in favor of it for football, basketball, baseball. Don't know that he's specifically been asked about that, but I know it's not really ever been under consideration when he was AD. So you have Trev that's in the catbird seat right now. Bill Moose opened that door back when he was in charge here. And I think baseball's where you go next, since it's up next after wrestling, and see if you can handle it for a weekend or a couple of weekends, or a Big 10 series, or maybe a home series that's going to get played, weather permitting. Maybe you sprinkle it in and give it a shot.
A beer weekend, if you will.
Yeah, what'd you say?
Just a weekend of beer, if you will. You even make it a little event. Have some have craft beer tasting before the game. Make it a
the Salt Dogs do that a couple times a year anyway. Where before the 7 o'clock or 6:30 first pitch, Charlie and company have all the beer vendors out there, the local brewers, the great folks in Nebraska, the zip lines, the boiler rooms. I mean, all the beer folks, Kincaiders. I mean, they're lined up, and it's a hell of a good time.
That's what I think makes the most sense is if you start this out, make it a promotional event just like that, where you have a beer tasting before. You have some of the local breweries in town. They can each set up their own stands, say on the right field line and the left field line. You can go get your beer for them for like one night, and you try it out for one night, see how it goes, and then you can open the door for it later down the road. But with this whole thing, I think Nebraska fans need to remember that you can't let a few bad apples across the country. When you look at Colorado, I know some people have had some bad experiences at Wisconsin. I personally didn't have a bad experience when I went up to Wisconsin. I thought the fans were fine despite the booze. That you can't let those bad apples ruin what could be a good thing here in Nebraska. There's bad apples in the stands at Memorial Stadium where you go, this jackasses over there making a nuisance of himself and really embarrassing himself and embarrassing Husker Nation.
He can't buy a beer. He showed up that way.
Yeah,
and I can't deal with it anymore.
But you look at that one person does not define Husker Nation as a whole and does not define the environment at Memorial Stadium as a whole, just like one bad environment such as Colorado does not define what it's like to sell booze at a college sporting event across the nation.
You know what it really meant too is all the Colorado games I've ever gone to, their fans are cranked up, their fans are obnoxious, their fans are rude. Not all, but you get that attempt at intimidation, that vibe. You know your program's something special, or at least held to a high standard if they get absolutely nasty with you because they know it's a big game. Mm-hmm. It's been a while. It's been a while since that's kind of been the case. Let's get to some Adrian Martinez. Elijah, did you hear the SoundCloud at all of Athletes Unfiltered on Twitter yesterday?
No, I did not.
So you had Adrian and podcast, and that's, of course, media. He kind of got out of the bag by Coach Frost, telling the media about his broken jaw. That kind of took him by surprise. And I don't know if that was after Wisconsin or after Iowa. I think it was after Wisconsin. And maybe it was after Michigan. I don't know.
It was the week before Ohio State. The game where it was left out of the bag was the Ohio State game. I remember walking into that stadium and everyone was saying, like, they mentioned on TV that Adrian actually broke his jaw a couple weeks ago.
So it was after Purdue.
Yes.
It's after Purdue. Yeah, so it was after Purdue. Adrian, in the little snippet I heard, commented on that. Then, and then he touched on the Michigan game where he got smoked by Hutchinson. The fumble happened, and Adrian's like, dude, he's looking at the side judge. Why the play was over? Why didn't anyone blow the whistle? And the side judge came in and said somebody should have. Ooh. But he's like, it didn't matter. Go check that Twitter handle out. Go check out the Hurrdat podcast, Athletes Unfiltered with Adrian, and it's pretty good. This is Adrian yesterday with K-State as they get going with spring football. And, the first question here about the portal process and leaving Nebraska.
The portal, if you will, was pretty hectic. But I wasn't looking for a school that was about the hype. It wasn't a strictly personal decision. It was about business for me, and one of my goals is to make it to the NFL. And in my mind, K-State gave me the best option to do that, with a really good culture, a really good program, a good team, good guys. In an offense I felt like I could fit in and thrive and show some skills of mine that I haven't been able to display necessarily. And that's what it was about for me. So there's a process, sort of comparing different schools, this and that, but K-State was at the top in every category for me.
Adrian opened up the interview, the group session, and he really loved the culture of Kansas State. He touched on that. There's Adrian's thoughts on the portal process. Adrian was asked if he was pressing last season or not. This is pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's part of it, but shoot, it's about playing football, and I wouldn't necessarily label it one thing or another. I will say I just need to get better, and I will get better.
Last thought here from Adrian and Russ Hochstein. Huskers in the Super Bowl week next with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Why he likes the Midwest. Adrian could have got a lot of spots. There was some thought, does he go to Fresno State? Does he go back to the West Coast? Here's Adrian.
I would say my personality is a much better match for the Midwest. I feel a little bit more at home here. And for me, it's a little bit slower pace, which I like. It's a little bit more open, less crowded. And I think Manhattan is definitely that. So.
Vic emails in chris@hailvarsity.com. It doesn't hurt that his girlfriend is at K-State. Just saying.
He also touched on that a little bit in the press conference.
It's always a winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good for Adrian. Best wishes to him. We'll keep an eye on him for sure. And we'll no doubt wonder how things go for him. Excited, too, about where Nebraska's at with Casey Thompson at quarterback. And, Nebraska had really an impressive showing last night as, it's kind of coaches convention season. And you had the high school coaches convention going on and Coach Frost. And Coach Frost is really trying to show the Metro that he is intent on winning the Metro. Every assistant and him last night at the Omaha Coaches Convention. That's impressive. Coach Applewhite spoke. And you've got a lot of really high-level coaches that have big-time players that were excited to see Nebraska in full force last night. Russ Hochstein, Super Bowl champ 2 times over, and great Husker. He's next on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. We talked to a 2-time champ with the Patriots, and Russ Hochstein back with us. Russ, the plan is what for Super Bowl Sunday?
The plan is simple for a married guy with 3 kids that are very active. I will be at 3 basketball games in the early afternoon, and then sometime around 4 o'clock, I'll be able to sit down on my couch, turn on the game, and watch the early coverage with some kind of cold beverage.
Cold is best, Russ. I'm sure you agree. So the craziness of going to 3 different basketball games is high level. So how does the role now compare to how hectic it was for you that first Super Bowl when it came to the lead up and all the logistics?
Well, I would say this. The role as a parent there's much more work to be done as a parent than there was when I was in my first Super Bowl. I wasn't married, and all I had to do was focus on football. So that part of it on the Super Bowl side was much easier on a day-to-day basis. But as we all know, there's a lot of pressure that comes with the Super Bowl. And then I was lucky. I'm one of the lucky ones who could say I was going into my first Super Bowl at the time. And the pressure was good, but we were well prepared. And obviously you guys know the stories of how well Bill prepares for football games. And no detail was forgotten about. So we knew we were pretty prepared as we got down there for the week before the Super Bowl. Most of our work was already been done in that off week in between, and you get to kind of go down and focus on getting the media stuff out of the way, your family settled, and then just kind of wire in for the game.
Russ, how can you put into words the preparation part? I mean, it's the Patriot ways talked about. Indulge just a little bit just how Belichick got you ready, how your position coach got you ready, the focus so you could play fast.
I'll tell you, we put so much work in the bye week. Bill was always very good. As soon as the AFC Championship game was over, the next day we were brought in. We had meetings. We went over the Super Bowl conversations and things that we needed to do for plane rides, family travel, tickets, and all those things, and wrapped up with what we did in the AFC game, watching film and working out. Once Tuesday hit of that week, you were back to work, ready to go, and we treated it as a full, like a regular season game week, and prepared that way. So that way we had third down on certain days, we had goal line, short yardage on one day, we go over blitz packages and things like that, and really treated it as a complete regular season work week. And then as we traveled down the Super Bowl, then we started tweaking and moving things around and adding some things here and there that come up through film, watching film and scouting the other team even more. And sometimes makes you wonder, the longer the layoff in between games, the more things you can think of and the more paranoid you can get what another team could do. But as we all know, anything can happen in these games. You do have 2 weeks to prepare. So sometimes it is. You get caught off or get caught off guard a little bit on what the other team does. But as games wear on, usually they settle into who they are, and you prepared what you prepared for, and that's the way the game plays out.
That was a nail-biter against Carolina. That first championship, a firework-filled fourth quarter. What was it like in those tense moments? I mean, they're all big moments, quarter 1 through 4, but specifically that fourth quarter in the huddle with Brady.
Well, like anything, every play was big, and you kind of hit on that. I never felt like one quarter meant more than the other, but as you get into the fourth quarter, and as anybody knows, players are not immune to it. We know that it's the fourth quarter. We know the pressure has increased. We need to score. We need to stay on the field. We need to give our defense a rest, and we need to execute. And the old saying of do your job individually and as a unit really comes into play, and make sure that those things we work so hard on those 2 weeks in between, being able to pick up the blitz, identifying what defense is being run, and our offensive coordinator always put us in a good situation. Then you got one of the greatest quarterbacks, the greatest quarterback of all time behind you. He always found where to go with the ball, and we moved it up and down the field. And so you always felt like you're in a good situation. But absolutely, the pressure's there. You know it as a player, and you want to hold and possess the ball and shorten the game on the other end of the field for the other team.
Any doubt with Vinatieri?
No, I never doubted Vinatieri. He'd already proven that once, and we were in Super Bowl II, and he just did it again. And then the next year we went down to Jacksonville, you knew you could trust him again. And man, that guy's clutch, and what a career he put together. And you can't say enough about guys that he just executed when the brightest lights were on, and he found a way to do it.
Russ, what do you remember? What can you tell us about the celebration? Was it more of a relief, or was it joyous? It was joyous, I'm sure, but were you able to soak in that first Super Bowl, or did you soak in more after the second win?
You never forget your first. You never forget your first. No, I would say that when a Super Bowl is over, the season's over. You're standing on top. You're the number one team, and the pressure is gone. And because now you get to go back to get some off time, some time down with your family, and you get to go enjoy it and go enjoy the celebrations. Because, like the AFC Championship game, you enjoy it for a night, and then you're so laser focused on what you have to do next in the Super Bowl that you probably didn't get to enjoy it as much as you wanted to at the time. And so now the off season comes, and you're like, man, now I can really enjoy this, have conversations with my friends in the media, my buddies, see people back home, and do all those great things, and really have fun and kind of cut loose and not have to worry about getting up at the next morning at 6 a.m. to work out. And so it's a relief. Obviously, it's joyous because that's why you're there, but the relief is huge, and there's nothing like it. And like I told you guys in the past, I wish every young kid growing up gets an opportunity to do it, because it's amazing. It's some of the greatest memories I'll ever have, most likely, other than my marriage and my kids and things like that. But it is something special, and they can never take it away from you.
Russ, a storyline going into this game is the fact that both quarterbacks are appearing in their first Super Bowl. Elsewhere on the rosters, the Bengals are pretty young. A lot of guys there playing in their first Super Bowl. As for the Rams, a few holdovers from that Super Bowl team a few years ago, but for the most part, a lot of guys that have never played in a Super Bowl. So what is it like going into a first Super Bowl, and how important is it to have guys on the roster that have been there and done that in terms of making sure the team is ready to go when it comes down to Sunday?
Great question, and I would say both are important. Number one, experience does help. Obviously, as you get into tight games, at the game's on the line at the end, the guys who've been there have experience. They may have seen something that younger guys might not have. But I would flip the coin as well and say, hey, the guys who haven't been there, they don't know what they don't know. Pressure is handled different by everybody. And sometimes a young team with a little bit of swag and cockiness and a lot of confidence, they're fearless. And so that makes them very, very scary when you're facing an opponent like that, because they're kind of out there with nothing to lose. They're young. Sometimes in the back of your mind you go, hey, I've been here once, we'll get here again, whether we all know how hard that is. But both are very valuable, and both are very scary. It's an easy way to say it. I know I'm playing devil's advocate, but really they can neutralize one another because the experience is what it is. Instead of, hey, maybe it's 4th and 1 and we shouldn't go for this, but maybe we're a younger team and we got a ton of confidence. Let's go just ram it down their throat and get this first down. And it changes the way games are played and the ebb and flow of the game, and that's a huge value for an inexperienced team. But on the other end of it, hey, you go for 4th and 1. We're an experienced team. We know how to take care of this. And then they go and ram it the other way and get the ball back. So a lot of things play out that way, and I think that is absolutely what makes this Super Bowl a blast to watch. And also the coaching on both ends. Both are very good coaches, are probably a little more conservative than we've seen in the past in some regards. And so I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Russ, a lean at all, Rams or Bengals?
I lean. How about this? I don't know if you guys are gamblers in the Midwest like we are out here on the East Coast, but
it got passed. So someday, yeah.
I know. I actually think there's going to be more points scored in this game than what some of the bettors think in the world. I just think Cincinnati throws the ball deep. They have enough talent in the wide receiving core all the way across. It's hard to cover them all. You know, view them kind of like Kansas City in a way. I know that made it be cliche or something, but when you got Chase, Boyd, Higgins, those are three monsters to stop. You got a pretty solid running game. I am interested to see what Cincinnati does with their O-line at right guard, because I know they've had some patchwork there, and they're playing a very good defensive line. But I actually think there's going to be some points scored in this game. And the underdog guy in me loves to root for the guys who probably weren't expected to be there. So I can kind of see Cincinnati doing some damage here.
So your expert betting prediction here is parlay the over with the Bengals cover.
Maybe. Not that I neither confirm nor deny that might happen. But yes, I kind of like the points that I'm getting with Cincinnati and the over. But I will tell you this: Vegas, when you talk about that line, it's a 4-point line here, I think, currently, and they know something we don't know, so they're giving you 4 points. So we'll see what happens.
Someone's going to shank an extra point. There's your 4.
Yep. Or the half if it goes up, or if it goes up to a half point, you'll have a lot of people screaming when that last extra point goes in.
Absolutely. Russ, Russ Hochstein with us. Huskers in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady retired. We talked about 24 to 48 hours before he officially confirmed it. So Brady is off to junior hockey practice and being a dad. Good for him. He also said on a podcast, forever's a long time, so I don't know if there's a door cracked. How do you view the retirement?
I don't know. It's hard, when people make comments like that, and I heard Gronkowski made a comment kind of like that too. So you never know. We've all watched sports long enough, and I've been a part of them long enough that your mind changes a lot. And I'm a 44-year-old guy who's been out 8-9 years now, and I look and go, wow, I'd still love to be playing. So give it a couple months, and your temperament and your mood changes, and that desire to compete and be with your buddies and go play the game you love can really pull somebody back in. So I would say never say never. But obviously Tom is been there long enough that maybe it's been enough for him. Who knows? But he certainly made comments that raised a lot of eyebrows. Like, is this really it? And it especially kind of raised my eyebrows when I heard Gronk say the same thing. Yeah. So when two guys are saying something and kind of leaving the door open, it kind of makes you wonder if there's something going on there or not. But hey, listen, all I can do is thank Tom for some of the best memories of the world. And the man has changed football, helped football, grow football, embodies football, and embodies a lot of great characteristics that, young guys coming up in the league could really, really follow. And I hope they do, because he set a really good example and lead, with character and dignity and do the things you need to do and do it the right way. And he's definitely done that.
Russ, enjoy those cold beverages and the overs, my friend. We'll talk again. Thanks for the time today.
You guys have a good one. Go Huskers.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes, that's awesome.
Thanks for hanging out on a Friday. Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Coming up, Dave Rimington, longtime Bengal, his take on the Super Bowl. Next hour, we welcome in Jacob Padilla with HailVarsity.com and magazine at @JacobPadilla_. Get his thoughts on hoops, a full weekend. Jacob, what do you know? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. I know that Nebraska finally won a game in the first time in a long time, so that's good.
That is awesome. I know you were there covering it, and want to get your thought. Was Wednesday a sign of what can be the future for Nebraska, these next 7 games, or is this just kind of, I don't want to say flash in the pan, but was this just an advantageous matchup? What do you see potentially working going forward? I know Maryland and Iowa loom on the road at Iowa, and then, of course, you had another road show to Wisconsin, so not a great schedule moving forward, but what can they build on from this week?
Yeah, that's the problem is we have no idea. Really don't know what to expect from this team on any given game. They've even in some of the games that they've lost, they've shown the ability to compete with some of the better teams in the league. They just couldn't finish it off. So it's not like they've been getting beat by 20 every single game, and that's how they got to 0-12. It's not a case where they just simply can't play at all. They just haven't been able to play long enough stretches or make the right plays down the stretch to actually get in the win column. So, I mean, the capability is there. I mean, you look at the schedule, obviously there's only 2 more home games, and Iowa just destroyed Maryland, but I don't think Jordan Bohannon's got another 10 threes in him in back-to-back games. So it's not like Iowa's like a bottom half, middle of the pack type of team in the Big Ten this year. There's no Luka Garza on that team. Keegan Murray is one of the leading scorers in the country, and he's going to be a really tough matchup for Nebraska, but not quite Garza. So they've got Iowa, and then, again, a Maryland team that's kind of reeling a little bit, coming to Lincoln. That's another big opportunity. Then you go to Northwestern for kind of the turnaround of that game. And, I mean, again, it's not a team that should overwhelm them. It happened in Lincoln, but we'll see if they can figure out a way to play on the road. And then you got a road game at Penn State, too, in there after you bring Iowa back to Lincoln. So there are some opportunities here. You got a couple of tough ones to end the season, but if Nebraska can find a way to play like they did for long stretches in that Minnesota game, then particularly with the effort and the intensity and the cohesiveness, because that was a lot of it too. They were on the same page with a lot of things. Guys were playing off of each other on both ends of the floor. It didn't become disjointed and guys not helping on defense and rotating at all, and guys just kind of isoing and closing everybody out on offense. So if they can stay together and put in that effort, they'll have some chances here. Now, granted, Minnesota contributed quite a bit to that Nebraska win. There were a lot of open looks that didn't go down. There were a lot of just mindless turnovers that credit to Nebraska for taking advantage of those, but I don't know that Iowa's going to give them the same exact opportunity. So they're going to have to go out and earn it, probably even a little bit more than they did against Minnesota, but that is a great starting point.
Now, Jacob, I'm taking everything you're saying here, and I don't want to twist your words, but what you're saying is the NCAA tournament is still a possibility for this Nebraska team?
Yeah, well, as long as they're eligible for the Big Ten tournament, then technically, yes, it is a possibility.
Technically, yeah.
Technically, right? Jacob, what should be or what could be Fred's plan moving forward with when he has to have the end-of-year sit-down with Trev? Buyout numbers, the buyout. It's been very lackluster energy-wise from the team at points. The fan base is not happy, clearly, but they're a little more happy with a win. You know, what's Fred's, if he has to make a pitch, what is Fred's pitch for a year 4?
Well, the pitch starts with the end, the closing stretch of the season. He's got to go out and put a competent, competitive, well-playing team on the court for these last however many games. You can't have any more Northwestern games where you just come out completely flat and get run off your own floor. It's got to start with there, because if you got a few more of those, then I don't know how you can feel good about the program moving forward. But if they can whether carve out a few of these wins, look good against against the likes of Ohio State and Wisconsin late in the season, where you start to feel like maybe something clicked. And then you got to lay out the plan for how to fix what went wrong this year. And that involves what you've got coming back, what you've got coming in, how the pieces will fit together a little bit better maybe next year, and then what your plan is in terms of what you want to do for development, for playing style-wise. Like you got to go out and show that, hey, I know what the problem is and I know how to fix it. And Trev's got to believe that. That's basically what it comes down to. Do you feel like you can get this program moving in the right direction? Do you understand what has led to the 3 rough seasons? And do you know and are you capable of kind of fixing those and moving forward? So that really is, like, I know he kind of gave the pitch on air with the recruiting class and kind of the struggles they've been through. And to certain degrees, a lot of that's true, but also there's a lot beyond that contributed to the record, and that was more in Fred's control and his staff's control. So he's got to go out and kind of demonstrate. He's got to put together a good pitch that Trev can believe in.
Jacob, about 2 minutes here, bud, before we'll let you get out. Couple of games you've got circled on the prep ranks that you're locked in on this weekend.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be out in Grand Island all day tomorrow for the Heartland Hoops Classic. That's the early event Tino Martinez puts on out there with a lot of cross-class matchups. They bring in some of the national powerhouses this year. We've got Link Academy with some familiar names like Omaha Ballou and Trey Green that have visited Nebraska. They're playing in it. You've got Wasatch Academy, who was here a few years ago, team from out in Utah. And then you've got Sunrise Christian, who's not going to be playing tomorrow, but they'll be playing against Link Academy tonight at Grand Island Central Catholic. And that's kind of a lead-in game between 2 top 3 teams, according to USA Today rankings. So great to see a bunch of 4-star, 5-star players out there in Grand Island these next 2 days. And you have some really good games out as part of the Classic. I think the Osceola in D2 climbing up 2 classes to take on a good C2 team in Donovan Trumbull. That's always cool when you get some of these kind of cross-class, and that's one where you, again, jumping up two class levels there. You've got Concordia against Auburn, against Aurora. So you got a good C1 against a top 10-ish Class B team. And then you've got Omaha Westside, the best team in Class A, going up against Isaac Trout in Grand Island. So you get to see kind of what Trout's able to do against Westside's defense. So few other games, but those are just a few of them. It should be a really fun day out there in Grand Island.
Can't wait for the write-up and, of course, the podcast. 2 of them you can find with Jacob on Hail Varsity. Jacob, have a great weekend, bud. Thanks for the time.
Yep, sounds good.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, Hail Varsity Radio, and give us a rating, good, bad, or ugly. We'll take it. Excited for that. And the feedback, and tell us what you think. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Please buckle up. A reminder here with your friends with the NDOT Highway Safety Office. 1 out of every 3 fatal crashes in Nebraska involves an alcohol-impaired driver. Why take chances? If you drink, don't drive. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. So, Elijah, what say you? Did it make sense statistically? Probably, for the regular season to give a 4th MVP award to Aaron Rodgers. Anyone else you would have maybe thrown in there? Could you have campaigned for Brady, perhaps? Could you have campaigned for Mahomes? Sure. Could you have campaigned for Doleman is drinking? Is that okay? I thought that was a Hams. Doleman is in the green room waiting for us. But from an MVP standpoint, I know Burrow got comeback player of the year. Chase was dominant down the stretch. I mean, like really, really good. And Cooper Kupp's really the only other name that kind of comes to mind for me with that MVP race. But Rodgers, someday he'll win as a 1 seed, I guess, is what I'm telling you.
I don't think I had a problem with any of the ranking or any of the awards from last night. Coach of the Year, Vrabel deserved it, yeah.
Regular season without
with regular season
the
without
big
playoffs.
beast.
If you include playoffs, then I think you have a good argument for Zach Taylor. But
Zach.
I didn't have a problem with any of that. The Hall of Fame class I thought was a little bit dubious. The fact that you're not putting DeMarcus Ware I thought deserved to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Devin Hester, Reggie Wayne, Mike Shanahan. There's so many names of guys that I thought.
Reggie Wayne was really, really good, but
I mean, it could be my bias.
What's tough about Reggie, man, is he was kind of number 2 on that team behind Starvin Marvin for a lot of years.
Yeah, but see, and the thing is I can admit a lot of the guys that made it in the Hall of Fame this year were a little bit before my time, being guys that played in the mid to late 90s, a little bit before my time. But Devin Hester was one that shocked me a little bit, not making it in. DeMarcus Ware. Those two are the big ones for me where I go, those guys deserve to be first ballot Hall of Famers based on everything they did on the football field.
Well, Ware was really good. Tony Baselli was an incredible tackle, and for him to be as good as he was with the expansion Jaguars at the time, and then he protected Brunell. I like Leroy Butler a lot. Bryant Young, I think, was out of Omaha Creighton Prep. If memory serves, he ended up at Notre Dame. Junior Bryant. Wrong dude. Wrong Bryant. But, there's not a lot of wow factor name-wise. I mean, there's not a Montana. There's not a Elway. There's not a Sanders. There's not a...
But, I mean, here's the 10 names that did not make it. The 10 finalists. Devin Hester, Andre Johnson, Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt, DeMarcus Ware, Patrick Willis, Jared Allen, Zach Thomas, Rondé Barber, and Willie Anderson. I mean, the name of the guys that got snubbed almost sounds better than the Hall of Fame class they put in this year.
Patrick Willis was really, really good. That was Jay Bird's roommate in San Fran. We'll catch up with Bill Doleman, his take on the Regents vote, Husker Hoops, the Olympics, Hour 2 next.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. It's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. And it's Friday at 5. That means the pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports. From the Olympics, Bill Doleman with us in all his NBC gear glory, my friend. Are you inside of a tank, or are you in the basement? How are you?
Bill's Basement Bureau of NBC Sports, and quite frankly, I don't own any clothes anymore that doesn't have some network logo on it somewhere. So I've saved money on that. But good morning to everybody, I'd like to say. So I might catch a nap after we're done with this, and then get ready to go overnight with biathlon again.
Bill, what do you think of this new background here on the live stream? Do you like what we've done with the place?
It's midfield.
Oh, yeah, that's very nice. A little different than the vantage point I had back in the days when I was hosting the Coach Osborne show. I was sitting next to God up top Memorial Stadium, so it's nice to get field eye view of what that looks like.
Where were you were working for Husker Vision, but did you have to go to NET to film that, or did you guys have your own studio set up inside the stadium?
Yeah, we had our own studio right where Husker Vision is now, although it's undergone some major renovations. But yeah, we had the studios right there on the West Stadium on concourse level, and I would go up to the very, very top of the press box where there was a crow's nest and about 6 people maybe or so, a couple of guys from the phone company, Brian Carpenter and Brian Monson and me, and just that was it. It was wide open and close. Like I said, sat next to God watching his favorite team, and mine, and got to feel the air and see the crowd, and a pretty special time and the best place to watch a football game.
Well, the good Lord may not be excited about the Regents vote when it comes to beer. The Board of Regents voting unanimously today to allow chancellors and presidents of the University of Nebraska system to permit alcohol, to the sale of alcohol at athletic events. Teddy Carter's come out and said, look, it's not happening this year at Memorial Stadium. Totally get that. But question for you, Bill. How and when would you usher it in post Big Ten wrestling here the first part of March? Would you pick a weekend for Haymarket Park with Husker baseball? Would that be the first step?
Well, my first question is, are they going to sell beer or are they going to sell Guinness? That's a lifestyle thing for me. But
right.
Is there going to be a caste system in terms of, do the folks down low get, Busch Light and the folks up high get flats? So I think that's a big deal. Hey, look, I am pro Ted Carter and Ronnie Green. I think that Nebraska has good administration and leadership right now. But I saw Ted Carter's comment was that they're never going to bring alcohol to an athletic event before first bringing it to the Board of Regents. Ted, I love you, but I got a Boda bag downstairs in a box that still has remnants of peppermint schnapps in it. So that ship's already sailed. Look, if Nebraska's hosting Big Ten wrestling, to me that's like that's hand in glove.
Sure.
You want to get a few people into. I'm sure it's going to be Pinnacle or at Devaney?
PBA. Yeah, it's going to be the 4th through the 6th or the 5th and 6th of March.
Blue collar sport. Blue collar beverages, you might sell that place out, and I think it'd be fun. People are going to be responsible. You're not going to people aren't going to be stupid. Well, I shouldn't say most people are not going to be stupid, because let's face it, there are already a lot of people who come to games and events that have already been stupid before they got there, right? Am I in favor of this? Look, it's the way of the world, and it's a revenue stream. But anybody who thinks that that there isn't something that's already been brought in there, is greatly mistaken. So
what about baseball, though?
I think wrestling would be great at PBA.
Okay, so
baseball
it's going to happen.
Go hand in hand, sure.
Yeah, and that's maybe the first step you see with this opportunity beyond wrestling is you pick a weekend, you pick a big weekend. Pick a nice weathered weekend, and you crank up them taps that get put to good use during Salt Dog games anyway, right? I mean, it's there,
right?
And you see how it's handled. Bill, a thought, Nebraska basketball got off the schneid. They got a win. They played well for 40 minutes. Well, they played better than Minnesota for 40 minutes, and good for Fred and company. What'd you think of the week of Fred, not only getting a win, but having to face the criticism like he has?
Well, I don't think you necessarily give somebody a ribbon because they face criticism, but, he faced it. It would have been a lot worse for him to say, I have a scheduling commitment that's going to preclude me from doing my weekly or whatever it is radio show. And I'm sure, I don't know Fred well at all. I don't think I've talked to Fred since he played at Iowa State. Mm-hmm. But, I would think that he probably said, open up the phone lines, make sure nobody cusses when they come on the air. We don't want a violation. It's a big ask. But based on what I saw and what I listened to a little bit of it just to kind of get the vibe. And he took it. He's making enough money. He should take it. So, again, no ribbon, but a lot of people, we see these days will find a way to conveniently avoid criticism or have selectively chosen callers and press questions. So good on him for doing that and being responsible and standing up. And, yeah, they had a nice win over Minnesota. They should have had a lot more along the way. And I'm just waiting for the conversation. In fact, after the game, Andy Katz, I was texting some buddies of mine, and I said, well, cue the contract extension talks, and the Nebraska is a dangerous team I don't want to play come tournament time. And sure enough, not the contract extension. But sure enough, on the Big Ten Network post-game show, Andy Katz is talking about, I wouldn't want to be playing Nebraska come tournament time. We hear that every year.
I know
right?
about 12 teams that want to sign up for Nebraska first.
I mean, I know more than hit send on that text than he was talking about Nebraska in tournament time. And you know what? Nebraska might get a win or two and shock some people in the tournament. It's going to be a tough road. Well, it's going to be a road because what do they play? 5 of their last 7 regular season games are all away from
Yep, 2 home games left, both Friday nights, Maryland and Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, that's, and Maryland got smoked by Iowa the other night, and they're somewhat of a program in disarray. Look, Nebraska might steal a couple of those games on the road, and they might protect home court and end up with, 4, 5, 6 wins with the tournament down the stretch. And, that's a great finish to a really bad season.
Bill Doleman's with us, NBC Sports, Pride of Fairbury. Find him on Twitter, at Bill Doleman. What's up?
Let me say that I think where things are right now, man, I saw unfortunately not a go big red flag, but a red flag when they lost to Western Illinois in the very first game of the year. And that just seemed to me, and that's somewhat forgotten because things have been, pretty bad. But there was something about that game that was just like, wait a minute here. The heads aren't on straight necessarily, and I don't think everybody's marching in the same direction. And it's just not. That was a bad. To me, that's one of the worst losses of the season because
it's a wrong foot, man.
Yeah, but I mean that should have been after what they did in the exhibition of Colorado, and I don't remember if they played Peru State or somebody. That's it. But to lose to Western Illinois right out of the gate like that, to me, I just keep going back to that. That was a tone setter for a team that just has had a lot of cohesiveness all year long. Verge comes back with the 20 points in the second half against Minnesota, after being benched, and credit Fred for saying, look, you're going to sit until you're ready to play. But anyway, we digress. We'll talk biathlon.
No, that's fair. We'll hit biathlon in a second. I want to get into to Scott Frost real quick. And Frost had all of his assistants in Omaha last night at kind of the coaches' convention. And it was a sign, I think, in an olive branch to the Metro coaches. And 2 of the coaches commented on, in Parker Gabriel's story today that that was nice to see, but they expect more attention with Mickey Joseph on hand, and that's great. But that was a nice show of force, so to speak, by the Nebraska coaching staff, and they were in Omaha, and it was a sign, Bill. It's a signal that they're going to really go hard in a different direction and make it a priority versus take it for granted, I think.
The most disheartening thing about that is the date on the story is not February 2019, 2020, 2021, and the pandemic aside. This harkens back to one of the criticisms that I had for Bill Callahan, that the coach at Westside in that story 20 years ago, or whenever we were doing the Average Joe Sports Show, said it sure is. It's great to, when the head coach of the University of Nebraska comes up and pays a visit. Well, that was like 2 or 3 years after Callahan got the job. And I think there was an innocent comment in the paper, but that spoke to believing that Nebraska just doesn't have the talent. And Scott and his staff, that should have been a priority every year around this time, that everybody was going up and hanging out and having Milt Tenneper and Dan Young beverages at the tavern down the hall or down the block. Because if you can develop those relationships and develop them early and, be friends and all that kind of stuff, then it doesn't become this big story. It's a great story. Don't get me wrong. And it's a great shift in focus, but those 50-mile trips to Omaha to visit high school coaches should be done on a weekly or every other week basis, just to hang out and have a beer and say, okay, let's talk, and who do we need to talk to when the time is available to us. Those are the kind of relationships that make Nebraska recruiting within the state of Nebraska so special. And that's what, we go back to the days, but those are the kind of relationships those coaches had around the state of Nebraska. They were friends, and it wasn't a big deal when they made the effort. It was just part of the deal.
You kept a lot of kids, got a lot of kids, knew about a lot of kids. Bill, a couple of minutes here. Biathlon, you get locked in for more Olympic coverage, your fourth Olympics, and tell us what you're looking at tonight.
We got the men's sprint coming up, and I'm sure everybody has their alarm set to join us live on the USA Network, I believe at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m., something like that, so appreciate that. We are on NBC tonight, on Big NBC, with the replay of the women's sprint, and I think that is at 10:30 tonight Central Time. But we're just getting started, and we've only had 3 or 4 races so far. So the men's sprint's tonight, and you got the mass starts and the pursuits, and it just having a blast calling it, having a blast watching my friends call their sports. And I don't know a lot about big air, although I should because I'm from Fairbury. But, and seeing them, seeing the stories with Michaela Schifrin and Deidre Irwin of the United States in biathlon, and the Shaun White stuff and hockey. It's, I'm really enjoying just the competition. I said this last week. I know there's a lot of politics and a lot of other stuff going on, but for the purity of sport and to just enjoy people doing what they have trained to do for many, many, many years, it's a great thing to view.
Bill, what do you think of the that photo that went viral of I believe it was the ski event housed right next door to a nuclear power plant? Did you see that?
Yeah. Let's just say that
moving on is what he's trying to say.
The countryside, one of the great things about doing as many international sports as I've done is to see just how beautiful the world is. And if I were to ever go overseas and go visit Europe, I wouldn't be to Paris and Rome and all that. I would go find Pokljuka, Slovenia, and Le Grand Bonan in France, and Antolz, Italy, because it is just spectacular what it looks like. The vistas in China don't quite match what I have seen in many of the other events that I have called over the course of my career. It's all man-made, and the biathlon thing is a mile high, and they planted like 10,000 trees to make it look like it was a forest setting. And I don't think I have any nuclear power plants or anything like that in my in any of the races that I've called so far. But it is not the typical international European scene, that's for sure.
What sport, if you could train to be an Olympian, what sport would it have been in?
Well, when you come from Fairbury and Nebraska, the possibilities are endless. And, whether it's ski jumping, that's how I got in with NBC, with ski jumping, and that's just a natural for all of us back home. I love my biathlon. There's no question about it. I certainly love curling. And I would think that now that Nebraska is offering beer sales at athletic events, that they may look into putting in a curling team, because that might go hand in hand along with bowling. We might want to start selling beer at the women's bowling events. That might attract some fans too. But I would love to give biathlon a shot, pun intended. But that's just probably never going to happen.
The best part about curling is it looks like all those guys that are doing it just had one too many beers one night and said, I could do that.
Well, I like the meme that's out there with the guys in curling looked like they were trying to get away from their wives for a couple of hours and ended up winning a gold medal at the Olympics.
That's probably true. Bill Doleman, Pride of Fairbury, NBC Sports. 4 a.m. live tomorrow morning right after Silk Stockings on USA Network. 10:30 tonight, Big NBC for the women biathlon. Bill, we'll talk next week. Keep up the great work, buddy. Thanks so much.
All right, go Big Red. And good night.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Let's say hi to a Hall of Famer for college football, a Hall of Famer with Nebraska, and all-century lineman, longtime Cincinnati Bengal and Eagle, well, an athletic director for a short time at Nebraska. I got to throw that in. Dave Rimington with us. Dave, we can't forget the AD role, brother. How are you?
Well, that was a short cup of coffee and a donut, and I was over there, but it was fun.
Hey, it was a good donut and coffee, man. That was good to see you. This time of year is always special, Super Bowl, and it's the ultimate prize. Dave, I wanted to touch base with you here Super Bowl week and just get your perspective as a longtime Bengal when the team gets to the Super Bowl, and I know you helped be on a team and part of a span that built up to a Super Bowl before you went to Philly. But what do you think the community's feeling and experience, to your knowledge, being a part of it like you were?
Well, Cincinnati has always been a baseball town, and when the Bengals first went to the Super Bowl in '81, it was pretty cool to see the town just turn over and become a football town. And then when they went to the Super Bowl in '88 again, the fans were crazy. I mean, they were just excited to see them be successful because there was a long drought in between. And I'm sure that the Cincinnati fans are just chomping at the bit, ready for this game.
They are, and they've kind of struck gold, Dave, with this year 3 jump with Zach Taylor after the first 2 years being really tough for him, and then landing a guy like Joe Burrow. Dave, you've seen a lot of quarterbacks, man. Level of wow with Burrow for you.
Well, I just think that he's cool. That's what he is. He's cool under pressure, and he's a student of the game. You could just tell. Physically, he doesn't look that imposing to me, but but he is. He goes out there and he plays much better than he looks. Just put it that way. He's a guy that just can do the job, and he's a gamer. And if you get a guy like that, who's has Nebraska roots because of his father. Mm-hmm. You're just so happy to see him have the success that he has. And you see Zach Taylor, former quarterback at Nebraska, and to see what success he's had after a couple of rough years, and see that Mike Brown has shown patience with him because he saw something and he's allowed it to flourish. So you got to give him props for, and I'm talking Mike Brown now, for hanging with him.
Dave, let's go back to being drafted by Cincinnati and your expectations going to that franchise. You were a first-round guy late in the first round because since he was on the heels of some good years. And, what was the word on Cincinnati as you began your career?
Well, the thing that I remember most when I got drafted by Cincinnati is I didn't really get contact with anybody from Cincinnati before the draft. So I was surprised. The San Diego game in the playoffs is what flashed in my mind when I got drafted. I go, that was a place that had the coldest game in the history of football at Riverfront Stadium.
Yes.
So it was kind of like I was just excited to go somewhere and get an opportunity to play pro football and make some money and do what I love doing, and that's just playing ball. And I was there for 5 years. And in '87, I was the union rep for the Cincinnati Bengals for the '87 strike, and that was the end of my career after that. And then I went to Philadelphia, played a few more years, 3 more years there, and then that was the end of it. But I had horrible knees coming in, so I was just happy to get drafted by somebody, and they gave me a chance, and I'll always be appreciative of that.
Dave, what was the trick? I mean, it takes some guts and some brains to be the union rep. Well,
it didn't take any brains at all. It was just after it was over with, I go, boy, that was a mistake. But I don't do anything halfway. So when I went in there, I went with guns ablazing, and you don't do that in Cincinnati and survive. So I didn't.
I'm laughing with you. I hope you know that. But
yeah,
so
I
was going to ask, what's it like to negotiate something on that scale? You're taking up for your brothers. You're taking up for your teammates.
I was the assistant rep. The real rep was Boomer Esiason.
Okay.
So he would do the negotiating with the team. I mean, it was tough because we had everybody, their livelihood was at stake, And a lot of these guys weren't really good with money. So, we had 12-year veterans that they're in game 3 and they're like, hey, I don't want any money left. I go, we're just looking at each other like, how did that happen? But that's the nature of the beast. They don't pay them to be financial wizards out there. So that was the toughest part, because they have their livelihood and you're putting it at risk by making, trying to talk them into staying out and honoring the strike. But as you see, the 87 strike was the last one the NFL had. And it has really, it benefited long run. It benefited the players with, just exceptional salaries now and the owners. I mean, it really opened up the door to a lot of money that is flowing through the NFL right now.
Does it just blow you away when you look at Denver for sale, $4 billion? You get in on it on any part of an ownership. I mean, it's gonna print money for you, Dave.
Yeah, that's true. And when I was playing, a lot of the owners were real estate people, and they got pieces of the stadium and all this other things that came with it, all the benefits. And it's just been a gold rush for everybody. Playing football, even retired guys like myself. I haven't started collecting my retirement, the NFL retirement, but it has gone up tremendously from what it was pre-strike, and in the years following. I mean, it's probably doubled. So I don't think that people, even retired players, can complain too much anymore, as long as they can hold off and take it at a decent age and not try to take it at 45 or 55. But if you hold on, it multiplies pretty well.
Dave Rimington with us, Husker great, legend, Cincinnati great, Hail Varsity Radio, Super Bowl week. Is there a particularly funny time you remember being in Cincinnati? What was the cast of characters like with that Cincinnati locker room? Of course, you and Boomer, Boomer Esiason Foundation, all the great work you do, Dave, raising money for the battle against cystic fibrosis. That brotherhood's been there a while with you and Boomer.
Well, Boomer has been a friend of mine since he got drafted in 1984, I believe. There was a lot of stories. I mean, it was just a fun place. We had a bunch of guys who were, lunch bucket guys, lunch pail guys who worked on the offensive line. Anthony Munoz, Montoya, Pazurski, Reimers, who's probably one of the better players out there and didn't get a lot of credit, but and Joe Walters, another fantastic player. We were just solid and stacked in the offensive line. And he had Jim McNally, the guru of offensive line play back then. And so, I mean, you couldn't help but learn a lot. It was a lot of fun, and we had a very effective line. And we were really good offensively through those years that I was there. And then, as far as all the knuckleheads were on defense, and like usual, they're the usual suspects. I could tell you some stories, but we don't have time, and I don't want to get in trouble for these guys.
Was Jason Buck on that Cincy team?
Yeah, Jason. He was the most level-headed defensive lineman I ever played against and with. Okay. Just a really, really nice guy, solid human being. I guess he was a Mormon, so he wasn't drinking, he wasn't carrying on. He was pretty strict, and just a nice person to be around. They had some guys on defense that were almost the stories come in camp anyway. That's where your true colors shine, because you're there for. At that time, we had 2-a-days for 5 straight weeks. Yeah. And they would go on strike just to get rid of that now. I mean, I'm sure they don't even have it. They don't even have contact during, summer camp or fall camp anymore. Not as much anyway. I mean, we had some days we had 3 practices a day. Wow. We'd have a walk to, and then we'd have a regular full pad practice in the morning and a full pad practice in the afternoon. And it's amazing that guys would still find ways to sneak out and go out at, hit the bars at night. I don't know how they had the energy to do all this, but I guess it was experience. But it was a fun time.
Were you guys in a college dorm for camp? Where were you guys stationed?
Yeah, we had, I can't remember the name of the place, but it was a little small college in northern Ohio, maybe about an hour and a half north of Cincinnati. It was a place that we didn't have air conditioning in this place.
My God!
So not only was it hot and humid, but there was no no relief when you got into the room. You just have to get box fans and have blow hot air all over the place. But then my second year when Boomer came in, it was second or third. He and I were roommates, and Boomer wasn't having any of this stuff. He went to a furniture rental place and had he had lazy boys brought in, new beds, and then he had double air conditioners stacked in the window. I don't know how he did this, but why the rest of the guys had like aluminum foil against the windows trying to reflect the sun away from the room. We had everything. We had cold air blowing. We had we were living the life of Riley up there. It was pretty good.
That's smart to room with the quarterback, isn't it?
That was one of the benefits. You hang around the quarterback, and he's going to get deals for you somehow or another. And I was like, man, this is pretty sweet.
How you leaning? Is it Cincy or is it the Rams when you look at Sunday?
Oh, you have to go with Cincy. I mean, that's with my heart.
Yeah,
that's with my heart. I'm thinking that Cincinnati's going to find a way to win. They've been on the road the last couple of games, and Burrow has found a way to win. So I'm hoping they can continue the magic for one more game and bring it home to Cincinnati. They sure deserve it. They've been on a dry streak for a long time. So let's hope they can bring it home.
Thought on Cam Jurgens. He's off to the NFL. Super talented and athletic center. What's your take on his projections?
Well, I think that I was hoping he would stick around for another year because he's been on our watch list, the Rimington Trophy watch list for the last couple of years. And I was hoping that this would be the year. We had an Iowa kid win it this past year, and I was thinking, well, it'd be great if we could come back and he'd probably be one of the front runners for that award. But he's a smart guy, and he's found out his value is right now to get out in the NFL and try to make some money. So he's doing that, and I wish him nothing but the best. It's a tough thing when you're at that age. I know they have the Neal thing going on right now, but it's nothing like the NFL money. So everybody's going to be chasing their dream, and so I'm happy for him that he's got an opportunity to go to the NFL. I hope he goes where he wants to. I don't know how high he'll go, simply because the snap issues that he had with the shotgun earlier. And with the under the center stuff was even more, disconcerting as an ex-center to see him in short yardage and having problems with exchange. But I think with the time he's going to have between now and the draft, he can work on all that. And if he gets in there and he makes a team, I can see him playing for 10 years. I mean, all he needs to do is get a chance and get some momentum and get things going. But he's got to make that team that first year. And that's the toughest thing because I don't know how high he's going to get drafted.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Dave Rimington with us, Husker great, legend, Cincinnati great, Hail Varsity Radio. Dave, you look at Nebraska's O-line, they made a change. You've got Donovan Raiola in from the Bears. Quiet guy, super intense, kind of a technician, and that's how he's been trained. Nebraska has some guys on paper that are highly rated, but the O-line's got to step up specifically on the tackles, and there may be a tackle. Corcoran could be moving to center. That's the word early before spring. I don't know, but your thought here on the direction of the Nebraska O-line here with a new guy.
Well, Donovan, I was getting Dominic and Donovan up here, but he was at Wisconsin with Coach Huber. So, and I was with Huber with Callahan, and I was with that group, and excellent coaches. They know the offensive line better than most, and to see him there, I hope he has a lot of success. Nice guy. He was kind enough to come to the Rimington Trophy event in January with us. I had a chance to speak to him, and he was really welcoming. He said, anytime I want to come in and speak to the players, I was more than welcome. So that was nice. I mean, he's I want him to have as much success as possible. I look at what he's got. He's probably got a future superstar if he works and he recovers from his knee surgery in Prohaska. Teddy Prohaska. It looks like he could be a future NFL and a future All-American at Nebraska. You've got Newelly, who is probably scheduled to be a left guard. Probably could play some center. Hickson at center. I think they've penciled in Latowski at left guard right now. They've got a couple guys that transferred in from, I think, Oklahoma State, Kevin Williams.
Yep, Kevin Williams
they got an Omaha North grad that's coming back, Anthony Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So they might have some depth there. As far as the other side of the line, Corcoran and Benhart needs to get much stronger. And if he's 6'9", and the only, I love the way the 6'9" guys look on the field.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to bail, especially if you're going to play guard. You got to dig people out, and you got to come off the ball hard. And he's just got to get bigger. When you're 6'9", your weak point is your back. Always, you get guys who are 6'9" as your tackles because they're supposed to have range.
Sure.
Now I watched him and Corcoran play. They got to use their hands more and not turn and run with the defensive outside linebacker or defensive end as fast. They just got to stretch that out, get a couple more kicks, and use their hands and punch, and stop absorbing guys. You can't, and it's a natural tendency. Everybody will turn and run at some point with the defensive lineman as he goes by you, because it's just you're playing against the best players out there. The big tall guys have got the range. And the reason they get the tall guys, they got to use their hands and they got to use their long arms as a weapon. And right now, I see a lot of absorbing and turning and running, and then they got to just get to improve on that. They've got the frame though, and what's really fun to watch is the young kid Prohaska. He does a pretty good job right now as a young man, and he's stalemating guys at the line, and he could be a great one down the road. I'm hoping that Bryce is, because he's a Nebraska kid, I think that, I'd love to see him do well. I don't know much about Corcoran. You said he might be going to center.
Yeah.
How tall is Corcoran? He's got to be tall to be in that group.
He is. He's not quite Benhart, but I think he's probably 6'6", 6'7". I mean, I think he's there.
Yeah. I mean, those guys look really impressive when they're in warm-ups and stuff. So, I mean, they look like the part is what you want, and they look like they could be a pro offensive line. They just got to get their techniques. I know with Donovan, he'll have them working on their hands and punching and extending guys before they turn and run, and that's what the tackles need to do. I mean, I tried to play tackle for a couple of weeks in spring ball, and I was absolutely horrible. Of course, I'm 6'1", and I'm out there trying to, I'm as good against the run, but I mean, the passing was a joke. But when I went to Cincinnati, I watched guys like, Anthony Munoz. I seen what he did, and he was not like overpoweringly strong, but he was just an athlete, and he could dance with people out there, and he wouldn't commit until it was the right time. And he did use his, and one thing that Coach McNally really emphasized was the punch. And all our guys who played on the perimeter could punch, and they were good kick steppers, and it was almost like a orchestrated thing to watch them play. They were great. I mean, they were absolutely great. Those guys that played for us on the corners there.
Those are some names, man, that you're bringing up on the outside at tackle, especially with Anthony, one of the best ever. Dave Rimington with us, proud Bengal. Bengals in the Super Bowl, and some thoughts on the Husker O-line. Dave, we'll do this sooner rather than later. Always love catching up with you, and thanks so much for your time. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody. I mean, it should be a good one. Let's hope the Bengals can find a way to win. Because I don't think is there any players? Maybe Stanley Morgan, is he a player with the Bengals?
You've got Stanley, and then Troy Walters was at Nebraska with Scott. He's the assistant wideout coach. He was with Zach at A&M, so they've reunited. Right. And then you got Zach.
I didn't know about Walters, but I did know that Stanley was there on the team at one time. But I think he's backing up a bunch of really good receivers that Cincinnati has.
He is, and Stanley's had some injury issues, but he's still on that roster, and he's been elevated from time to time to active. So Stan's one of our favorites here, and it's good to see him still doing work in the league.
Yeah. It's great. Anytime you see a Nebraska kid out there doing well, you just got to cheer for him all the time because, it's just part of being a Husker. It never goes away.
You're right on with that. Well, get some wings, Dave. Enjoy Sunday, and we'll do this again, bud.
Thank you, Chris. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.
Husker great, Dave Rimington. Of course, all everything when it comes to the offensive line. Dave keeps up with it big time, and it is a size thing, Elijah, and we talk about, what's the next position? Is it still tackle for Turner Corcoran? And Turner's 6'9". I misspoke there a bit ago. I know how tall Turner is, but him and Teddy on the edge would be nice. Ethan Piper's a name to keep watching, the Norfolk Catholic product, as far as an option at center. Name to listen for. And we'll see if Nebraska gets in there or not on him, is Tyler Steen. It's another portal guy, and you have Steen with a boatload of snaps out of Vanderbilt. Played left tackle for Vandy last year, 3-year starter. And if you could get Steen to Lincoln, you could have Steen theoretically. You have Big Ted at left tackle, and then you could have Turner move inside, but still have the option of Piper, Nuri at the left spot, Henry Lutovsky, as Dave was mentioning, at the right spot. Kevin Williams, the Omaha North transfer, is a guy that I'm excited about, and we'll see where things shake out. But I know that the thought is to fire off the ball under Donovan Raiola. We'll wind down a Friday. A forecast next.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Friday weekend edition tomorrow morning, 7 to 9 a.m. with Hail Varsity, Chris Schmidt, Mark Cranack, Elijah Herbel. And we will, without further ado, get to the Friday forecast. Super Bowl 56 edition. I've seen the line anywhere between 4.5 and 3.5. Do you want to settle at 4? Fair deal?
Fair deal.
4 it is. Cincy or the Rams? Man, will Cincy stay patient? Will they get the run game going with Mixon? Will they body blow Donald and company? That's kind of the key. They stayed patient against Kansas City. They stayed patient in the run game against Tennessee, against the Raiders. That run game helped them set up their screen game. And I think that's one way to neutralize Vaughn and Aaron Donald. That O-line for Cincy scares me. Joe's survived and thrived through 3. I think momentum has waned a bit because of time off. I like the Rams. I think that 48.5 number will probably go over, but I think it's the Rams by double digits. I don't trust Stafford, but I think Stafford can hand off and can find Cooper Kupp. And, of course, OBJ. Give me the Rams 34-24 over Cincinnati. I want Cincy to win. I want Zach to get the winner's ring. I want Stan to get a ring. Coach Walters to get a ring. I just don't think they can do it against that Ram defense. And there's enough variety with the Rams offense to make Stafford delegate versus beat you single-handedly. Where are you at, Elijah, for a steak and a beer? Or are we on agreement?
Well, I've got your bet written down, and I'll take you through my bet here. I have got the Rams calling tails on the toss. It's going to be heads, so the Bengals win the toss. They're going to like to receive the ball, obviously, 3 and outs. And then we're actually going to get into the game here. I think it's going to be one of those games that the Bengals have to settle into it with their young team. But I do think they make this a game in the second half, and I think it's going to come down to whoever's got the ball last. I got this being a close game. Bengals win outright 34-31 over the Rams, and they douse Coach Taylor in a lemon lime Gatorade.
It's lemon lime, says Elijah Herbel. Good enough, man. I hope you're right. McPherson's been incredible. The commercials will be pretty fun. Some of them have already been airing. But let's be honest, it's really about food and drink and football. One more rodeo of football before April 9th anyway, with the spring game.
Do you have your Super Bowl menu finalized yet?
I don't, man. My plan is Mama's got to work, so I take Junior to brunch and overload him on biscuits and gravy, and then we'll go back for round 2. Probably either go somewhere or crash somebody's house. I don't know that I'm going to end up making my wings.
We're going nachos with some baby back ribs. I'm going to make a buffalo chicken dip, and then we'll see. With the ribs, we might not go a little Smokies. That might be a replacement. But nachos
we're going to Elijah's. That's where we're going. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. with the weekend edition. Locally, check us out over on KFOR. Southwest Boys hosting the East Girls. Motzi has the East Girls hosting Southwest at 6:50 coming up. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.